Ryan, I thought you put it really well on our last show, kind of where some of our hesitations with Kaden have been, and how also he's starting to put on tape what we've always wanted to see from him as a top prospect. We've always liked the agility, the way that he moves, but he's added a lot of that weight and strength. Hello and welcome to the Verbal Commitment Podcast here on the Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Kevin Flaherty. I'm here as always with my good friend Ryan Wallace, and we're talking about the world of local recruiting, from Kansas and Kansas City prospects to the college classes at Kansas, Kansas State, and Missouri. On Halloween, we headed out to Salina to see Salina Central defeat Topeka West in the opening round of the Kansas playoffs, and I had a chance to catch up with Kansas offensive tackle commitment Kaden Snyder, the top-ranked commit in the Jayhawks class. Stay tuned for that. If you like what you're hearing, comment below, tell your friends about us, subscribe, hit that like button, or leave us a review, a 5-star rating, wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple or Spotify. We have our own specific audio channel through KCSN on Apple and Spotify, so you can seek us out there. As always, we appreciate you guys helping us to grow and getting us in front of more people like you. Ryan, let's go ahead and get an alarm.
Let's do it.
An alarm means that one of the local Power 4 schools landed a commitment, and in this case, Kansas State adds defensive tackle Adrian Beccabele. Ryan, one of the things I've said that I like about this Kansas State staff is they will look under any rock, anywhere, to find a recruit who fits Kansas State. And in this case, the rock was located in Sweden. So,
Yes.
What do you like about this commitment about Beccabele?
Yeah, as you can see from that graphic there, I Googled this, so God help us that Google got it right, or I don't know, FCC is going to be after us. But apparently that is the Swedish translation for like a pledge, like a firm commitment. Okay. So I'll let you and our friends at home take a stab at it. I'm not going to try and take a stab at it. But, you know, when you talk about Adrian, what K-State's getting right, he's a big defensive tackle. Yep. And he's got offers from Florida, Georgia, went to camps there through PPI Recruits, which is led by a guy named Brandon Collier. And the idea is that he can take international players, prospects, take them on kind of a tour of different camps from around the country. K-State was one of the stops that they made, and hopefully land them a Power 4 offer by people that I trust. And I mean, guys like Cole Carmody, Drew Galloway, that are on the beat, that are at every camp for K-State. It sounds like this kid really tore it up, Kevin. One of the camps that you and I were not at, but they were there and said he was tremendous. As good of a camp, performances they had seen from a prospect at K-State, and that's saying something. Then you kind of turn the tape on and look, there's a lot of upside for this kid. But again, he's from Sweden. He's still kind of learning some things. I think athletically really gifted. But, stuff like his stance, right? It's like there are going to be some things that are going to need to be fine-tuned a little bit. But I think the one thing that you can say is you hope that he comes in, arrives and kind of can shadow somebody for maybe a year, understand the weight program, understand the transition of the speed of a Big 12 game, and maybe start to work his way in 2027, perhaps. I mean, maybe I'm way off and he can get on the field in 2026, but to me, I see a lot of similarities to a guy that hopefully he can shadow. Another player on K-State's roster that as a prospect and as a recruit had a Florida offer. Granted, it was out of junior college and Butler County Community College, and that was Malcolm Alcorn Crowder. I think there are a lot of similarities between he and Beccabele. And so, again, a kid, like you said, that K-State has combed and, turned over a rock for, at a position of need. It's a good fit. I think you give him some time, hope that he adjusts and buys in. And this is going to end up being a nice get, I think, for K-State on the defensive line.
By the way, I did Google it. It is about an hour and 20 minutes from Manhattan to Lindsborg, Kansas, Little Sweden. So not too far for him to go to a place that may or may not feel like home. I can't recommend Old Stuga enough for Beccabele, but welcome to the state of Kansas here once you make it to Manhattan. Kansas State now has 17 commitments in the 2026 class, one that ranks 56th nationally on 24/7 Sports. And while we don't usually talk about walk-on commitments here, I did want to mention really quick that it is going to be preferred walk-on commitment season coming up. Remember, those preferred walk-on spots are really going to be highly coveted now with the reduction in roster sizes. FBS teams could have up to 105 players, whether they're scholarship or not. Most teams will carry at least 85 scholarship players, meaning that 20 spots or fewer are going to go to walk-on players. You spread those 20 or so spots over multiple classes. You're talking about 4 or 5 players per class. And so when you start talking about guys that you and I watch who are having huge senior years across the state, they're competing for some preferred walk-on spots at KU, K-State, maybe at some other places. And those spots are going to be pretty hard to come by, Ryan, and there's going to be a lot of competition for those spots.
Yeah, I was going to say it's going to be an interesting year and cycle for this because, I mean, I can remember for years at Go Power Cat writing, 8, 10, 12 player kind of profiles of preferred walk-ons. I don't think we're going to see that many anymore for K-State, KU, and Missouri, but at the same time, I think the guys that do end up garnering those PWOs are going to, like you said, be very coveted. And it'll be interesting to discuss with them. Hopefully we can get them on the show to talk about kind of how that all pans out, because now these preferred walk-ons, back in the day, you were trying to get them, maybe kids that were going to go to JUCO or something like that. And now you're trying to pry kids away that have some legitimate money that they're turning down from other places. And granted, PWOs at a K-State and KU can still get some financial backing, right, through NIL and those sorts of things. But a lot of times they're turning down bigger money and heftier scholarships somewhere else. So really intriguing to see not only how K-State, KU, Missouri navigate PWOs, but who ends up becoming the players that take and accept those PWOs from a K-State, KU, or Missouri, and not a South Dakota State, maybe a Washburn, something like that. I mean, it'll be very, very intriguing to see how this all unfolds in the next couple months. But certainly, as you said, here in these latter weeks of November is when it seems like those evals and those discussions really kick up.
Yeah, the gap between a scholarship player and a walk-on is never going to be smaller, I feel like, than it is now. It used to be you could go out to a practice and pretty much point to, hey, that guy's a walk-on, that guy's a walk-on, that guy's a walk-on. I don't know that that's going to be the case very much anymore. And there are going to be some programs that aren't going to have any walk-on spots. You mentioned Missouri. I think a lot of SEC schools, if not most of them, will go all the way up to that 105 scholarship limit. I'm interested to see what Missouri's looks like if they wind up going, hey, we're going to go to 95, or are they going to ramp it all the way up to 105 where they don't do walk-ons anymore? Because the teams that they compete with, the Georgias, the LSUs, the Floridas, those schools are going to 105. And so that'll be something that'll be interesting to watch. Let's go ahead and get into our Tacos for Life Player of the Week. Tacos for Life has a wide variety of options to choose from in their fresh scratch kitchen and locations in 8 states, including right here in Kansas and Overland Park, with catering and food truck options available as well for those parents. Make sure to dine in for the $1.99 kids meal after 4. And for every taco, rice bowl, salad, quesadilla, or nachos that you enjoy, a meal is donated to Feed My Starving Children on a meal-for-meal basis. Those meals are then shipped out to more than 90 countries, to feeding centers, care points, orphanages, schools, and refugee camps. The Overland Park location has given out more than 736,000 meals over 3 years, while Tacos for Life as a whole has donated nearly 43 million meals. It's a great cause, and you can help just by doing what we all know and love, chowing down on some great tacos. Every week, we will pick a Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week, and this week's pick is 2027 Raytown South linebacker Kenton Hampton. Raytown South had a big upset victory over Lincoln Prep, 24-13, to open the playoffs, and Hampton was a big reason why, with 11 tackles, including 8 solo stops, 2 tackles for loss, and 1 forced fumble. Ryan, what have you seen from Kenton Hampton?
Well, I was going to say, I think the first thing that jumps out for me is just everything that he's meant for the defense as a junior. I mean, this is a kid
Yeah.
that really bright, 3.9 GPA, and a really good athlete. But I mean, he has become the defensive captain, right? We profiled Dylan Hanks earlier in the year and kind of mentioned him as maybe somebody to watch, and it seems like he's kind of taken on a leadership role for the offense. But it's been a junior, not a senior, and Kenton Hampton that's been kind of the captain for this defense and leading in the middle. And boy, I flipped on that tape from last Friday night against Lincoln Prep, or Thursday night, I guess it was. And he's everywhere, man. He really locks down. You could see in pre-snap how many times he's directing guys and making sure they're in the right alignment. And boy, they took it to Lincoln Prep. And he's Kenton Hampton, man. He's Kenton with a capital K crunch, because you see him come and just like when he makes a hit and you see him, fill that gap, there are very little yards after contact. It's like these running backs are hitting a brick wall. He's forcing fumbles. He's creating sacks and turnovers. He's really meant everything to Raytown South, and it's been a really cool story to watch Kenton and this squad for Coach Harris live to see another day, right? Advance out of that first round when maybe people were thinking that it wouldn't happen, and yet here they are. They get to go through another week of practice in the crisp November air, and give it another go. And hey, we're at that time when it gets to this point in the bracket, anything can happen. And I'm excited to hear from Kenton to see kind of what Raytown South's practice has been like, knowing that they have lived to see another day and advanced into the second round of the Missouri High School playoffs.
And here is our Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week. Kenton, welcome to the show.
Thank you to have me. Thank you.
Kenton, you guys had kind of a tough start to the season, but it feels like all of a sudden you found some momentum. You end the regular season with the 22-zip win over Grandview. Then you upset Lincoln Prep in the playoffs. Why do you think you guys are playing your very best football this year when it matters the most?
I feel like you said, we definitely had a lot of adversity to start the season. We definitely had some injuries. We had some tough losses. But I feel like all the guys in our program have bought into it, and we truly believed that we was going to be a force to be reckoned with in the playoffs. And we all just carried that same momentum. And we knew all we needed was one win. And once we got that one win, we've been rolling since. So it's just time to go. We in the playoffs now.
Kenton, I feel like, it's a kind of an understatement what you just said, in the sense that, like, I think it's real easy for a lot of high school kids to get really down on themselves when you start 0-8. But was it hard for you guys to bounce back, or did you feel like all you needed was just that one win to get things clicking? I mean, did it feel like that you ever lost the locker room, or were the guys as united this last week as they were week one at Smithville?
I feel like we've been united this whole season. We never really lost the locker room or lost anybody. We never lost hope that we was going to be the team that we set out to be at the beginning of the season. We all just believed that we needed that one win. And once we got that one win, we knew that whatever worked, we just going to keep doing it and carry that same intensity into the playoffs.
Ken Ryan mentioned just before you came on, we were watching some of your tape from last week, and one of the things that stands out is the way that you direct traffic, right? You're like a quarterback on that defense. Where does that come from? And is that something you take pride in, kind of getting everybody lined up and in the right spots?
Yes, sir. It's definitely something I take pride in. Coach Harris, the head coach, he always tells me just be a leader out there. Be the leader, and those guys, they'll respond to you. If you just get them lined up, get them set, carry that same intensity that I feel like is just natural to me, they're going to buy into it. They're going to carry it too. We just going to be a great defense altogether.
Coach Harris, Coach Patel, you got some great personalities on that staff at Raytown South, some of our favorites.
Sure.
I want to get back to your game, though, as a linebacker. Is there a player, college or pro, that you model your game after?
I would say definitely Harold Perkins from LSU.
Yeah.
I like his game. He plays with an intensity and he plays fast. I love that. I feel like that models my game, and I try to model my game after his.
One of the other things that really showed up on your tape is the way that you hit guys, right? Like, guys don't gain yards after contact. When do you hit them? Where's that aggression come from?
To be honest with you, I feel like that's something that Coach Harris definitely instilled into me. Coming in as a freshman, I feel like the weight room was very important for me, and he taught us to never back down when you go for a hit. Go full speed, go full contact, and just see what happens. And I just feel like I've just been doing that, and the aggression, I feel like that part is just natural.
And you're wrestler kind of too in the off season, so I'm sure that helps with that tenacity, that toughness. As Kevin mentioned, Kenton, it feels like Dylan Hanks kind of on offense and you on defense, kind of the leaders of those two groups. As a leader, how much fun has it been to watch a guy like Zaire Thomas grow, and how excited are you to have him as your partner again on defense next season as well?
Man, seeing Zaire's growth from when he came in as a eighth grader is crazy. He was always very explosive, definitely, but he had a lot of things to learn, especially from his freshman year. And seeing him go down in week 3, that definitely took a hit to our defense, especially going into the tougher part of our schedule. But I feel like he's definitely learned a lot more about the game. He learned where to line up and he knows where to go now. And I feel like he's just gonna be scary next year, man.
3.9 GPA. What's your best subject and what's your favorite subject?
My best subject, I would say math. Math is definitely my best. And then my favorite, I want to say chemistry is my favorite. It mixes in a little science and a little math together, and I like to be challenged. So
Lengthy road trip heading down to Warrensburg this week. Give fans and listeners an idea of what Raytown South needs to do to pull another upset. And on top of that, though, just how nice has it been? We talked about it before you jumped on, Kenton, of just being able to go one more week with these guys, when the odds were stacked against you.
it's definitely a blessing to be able to play football in November and go into the second round of the playoffs. And as a message to the fans and everybody else, I just say we just need to play Raytown South football and stick to our identity. And let's see what happens out there on Friday. I'm excited for this game, and I feel like our guys they're ready to play.
Wanted to give you one last chance. We want to give everybody a chance to kind of shout out some of their teammates. And so for people who are watching Raytown South for the first time in that game, who should they have their eyes on? Who do you think, which of your teammates do you want to show a little love to?
Like I already said, man, Dylan Hanks, but another one is Jordan, number 3. Watch him. He's a speedy guy. He can get to that edge. One juke and he's gone, man.
Well, Ken, as our player of the week, we'll be sending you and all of our future Tacos for Life Metro Player of the Week picks a gift card to enjoy the food at Tacos for Life.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank y'all for having me.
We'll be right back on the Verbal Commitment Podcast right after this.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Welcome back to the Verbal Commitment Podcast. You can follow along with us at Twitter/X at verbalcommit_KC for clips from the show, conversations about local players, and even the odd highlight. And calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at the Chiefs home game this season. Visit chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. A little bit of realignment news because, we know you guys appreciate it when we help you stay on top of this. Perhaps KC's Dion Clisso reported that the Greater Kansas City Suburban Conference made its realignment changes, which it does every 2 years based on enrollments. This year's changes see a difference in the number of schools as well, with Excelsior Springs leaving the conference to join the Midland Empire Conference. The other 27 schools are split up as follows. In the Suburban Gold, Blue Springs South, Lee Summit West, Liberty North, Raymore, Peculiar, and Staley. In the Suburban Red, Lee Summit North, Liberty, North Kansas City, Oak Park, Park Hill South, and St. Joe Central. In the Suburban White, Belton, Grain Valley, Fort Osage, Platte County, Raytown, Truman, and William Chrisman. And in the Suburban Blue, Grandview, Kearney, Raytown South, Ruskin, Smithville, and Winnetonka. Ryan, does anything stand out to you with all of those changes?
So really the two that you need to that changed outside of Excelsior Springs leaving the Suburban League is to try and balance out the gold and the red. Lee Summit North is now flipped from the gold to the red. Yeah. And then you have Ruskin going from white to blue to try and balance that out as well. In terms of what stands out, look, I think the red gets a little bit more competitive for a Liberty and North Kansas City. No disrespect to Oak Park and Park Hill, but it does feel like that's been kind of a Liberty stronghold of late. I think Park Hill probably can argue that they've been up there as well. North Kansas City was looking for a chance for them to get, some power, I think, with the class of juniors that they have returning. Well, now you've got the Broncos to deal with in the Suburban Red. So that's probably the big one. Outside of that, like I know Platte County had Ruskin in their conference schedule. So like, I don't know now if the Pirates will have to go out and find another new like if that just stays as a non-con now, or if they'll any movement for them to kind of readjust their schedule now that Ruskin is no longer a league foe. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, in terms of the gold, nothing really changes. I think for it, the big news would be Lee Summit North heading to the red, giving Liberty, Park Hill, North Kansas City a little bit more of a test in that league. But can I also just say, Kevin, that like, why aren't Kansas leagues doing this too? I mean,
yeah.
It's not necessarily relegation. It's not based on your performance. It's more aligned with your enrollment and then like your location, right? So
sure.
I'm thinking Sunflower and EKL, if they just like merged and did this kind of, league based on colors or whatever, I mean, you could do it. And since it's mainly 6As, then you try and pick the ones that are closest to each other or something like that. But I love this idea, man. I mean, it's not like, college conferences where you're getting revenue from TV deals and stuff. I mean, I would love to see this kind of thing happen on the other side of the state line. It's really cool. And again, you get a little bit of fluctuation year to year. These will be your conferences for 2 years, and then they'll readjust again in 2 years for new leagues. So it's a cool way to do it. And like I said, it kind of keeps things spicy in the Suburban Leagues.
Yeah, for sure. I like the idea of Kansas's motto is ad astra per aspera to the stars through difficulties. I like the idea of an ad astra and per aspera.
Let's do it
together. Let's make this happen. Keisha, if you were watching, and I know you are, you need to make this happen. In the first round of the playoffs in Kansas, I went out to Salina Central, where the Mustangs blasted Topeka West 68-22. Of course, the main reason I went out there was to see 4-star Kansas commitment Kaden Snyder, and he didn't disappoint. Ryan, I thought you put it really well on our last show, kind of where some of our hesitations with Kaden have been, and how also he's starting to put on tape what we've always wanted to see from him as a top prospect. We've always liked the agility, the way that he moves, but he's added a lot of that weight and strength. He says he started this season at 305, is down to 295 now with the usual wear and tear of the season. He's still pretty agile, moves pretty well. He looked good in pass protection. He was nimble, getting out and making blocks even with the increased size. And Ryan, you mentioned last week, the physicality is really what you start to notice that's jumped from where he was as like a sophomore to a junior to a senior.
Yeah, I mean, he was always been super agile, super mobile, nimble. But you're seeing him like punish people now, finish through whistles. I really like the way that he's taken his game, right? Like you said it, like I, for one, have been critical of Kaden Snyder in the past and his recruiting ranking and things like that. And yet he's just kind of stuck with it, stayed determined, put in a ton of effort in the weight room and how strong he's gotten, how much bigger he's gotten in his physique. And look, he's put together a terrific senior season.
Yeah.
To the point where, and again, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but like let's just say we have some serious discussing that needs to be had when you start trying to get a pecking order of these in-state linemen as we start to finish our rankings for the 2026 class. I think Kaden has really lobbied for a chance to be the best lineman in the state for that 2026 class. And like I said, we've got some heavy debating that we'll be having here in a couple weeks for that.
I think a couple guys who started off a little further down our rankings will be either at or near the top. A few guys that have been at or near the top are going to maybe slide down a little bit. We haven't finalized that, but just in preliminary discussions, I do think you're going to see some movement within that offensive line group. Kaden is one part of a really strong senior class at Salina Central that includes linebacker Jesus Delgado. You know, I think, Ryan, he could be, you know, one of those D2 type guys that really thumps between the tackles. I really like their safety, Abram Owings. He's another player that really adds to that physicality that the Mustangs have. We've talked about junior offensive lineman Warwick Van Blaricon. He's another sort of big, strong offensive lineman that they pair with Kaden Snyder. And when you add in their senior running back, Cooper Reeves, who's every bit of 210, 215, running behind those guys, this is a program that I think is built to win in November. I do wonder a little bit with the back end players if they go up against a team that has elite skill talent, if you're talking about like a Great Bend or somebody like that they could run into in the playoffs. But from a physicality standpoint, this is a team that's built to win in November.
Real quick, I did want to ask you, because I said last week, hey, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Prince Lassiter, anything that you want to share about the 2027 Topeka West defender?
We were actually just going to get there.
Okay.
So Topeka West wide receiver, who's a senior, Jaden Lindsay, had a huge game, actually, and was really tough for the Mustangs to handle. And that was part of the reason that I came away thinking, like, oh, man, if Salina Central gets to go against a Cooper Omocht and an Ian Premer, like that could be an interesting thing to watch. But the non-seniors at Topeka West, they could have a better team next year when you look at Prince Lassiter, a guy that we knew about heading in, legitimate 6'6" defensive end and tight end. He caught a 2-point conversion pass on offense as a tight end. And while I think he's more defensive end than tight end at this point, and he's really raw there, but you have to love his frame and the way that he moves when he's decisive. And I bring that up because you and I think, talk about this a lot with guys who are young, who are sort of still growing into their bodies, who are still learning the systems. A lot of times it doesn't look as great because there's a hesitation. There's I hate to say a slowness, but there's guys aren't moving quite the same way. And then all of a sudden you see them trigger and you're like, okay, like I get it. With Pritchard, there were a couple times in pass rush, usually not working against Kaden Snyder. That was a tough matchup for him. There were a couple times in pass rush and a couple times in pursuit where you saw him just put his foot in the ground. And I think that was where I started to think, hey, depending on how he develops this offseason, this could be a Power 4 kid that we're talking about here, Ryan.
Well, and he just strikes me as the type that, again, like first team off the bus.
Yes.
Very raw, though. Very raw. But because of his physique, because of the athletic traits, he strikes me as a kid that will catch a lot of people's eye when it comes to combines, when it comes to camps. The question for him, and when the job that he'll have to try and prove between now and next summer, is to try and narrow that gap of just how much of a project is he. Because again, I think just based on physical measurements and what he can do as an athlete, the fact that he can go D end or be a tight end, there are a lot of things that I feel like might keep him on a recruiting board longer than some of your other, quote, bigger projects, because again, he's got that upside that we talk about. So I'm very curious to see kind of what movements he makes this off season, and then where does he end up camping, and how intrigued are they again when he shows up? Because even without pads, judging from what you said, he's definitely a guy that catches your eye right away.
He was a guy that we knew about heading into the game, obviously. A guy I'm not sure we knew about is Nazir Williams-Brown, a sophomore. He is a small running back, but I'll tell you what, Ryan, I was watching him play next to a former small running back in Jake Sharp, and Jake Sharp had a lot of the oohs and ahs sort of watching this guy go. He's got great moves in the open field, tremendous contact balance, breaks a lot of tackles. One of those guys that you think he's down and then he gets another 7 yards or so. He's small, but he's a sophomore, so he'll be one to track as he continues to kind of grow and fill out his frame. So Nazir Williams-Brown, running back, Topeka West, keep an eye on him.
Adding to the list.
Yes. Ryan, I can tell you from being at Salina Central, as Salina South's upset win over Andover went final, that it was, in fact, the talk of the town. Were there any other results from the opening round of the playoffs that surprised you, or any other performances that really kind of stood out from the first week of the playoffs?
That was by far number one, because the Missouri side was pretty chalky outside of Raytown South. When we talked to Kenton earlier about that, but on the Kansas side, I think Andover losing to Salina South was enormous. Ruined our plans for this week to get down and see Tyson Ross. We
were going to go see Andover and Tyson Ross.
So that will be put off a little bit longer. But for me, and I can't remember if we talked about it, but I know I mentioned it doing some radio with Dion Clisso and Preps KC last week, which was, look, if there was going to be something that went against the grain, it was going to be our friends at Kansas 6A. And that classification did not disappoint, because there were two from that bracket that I thought caught my attention late Friday night, early Saturday. The first was on the east side, and it was Shawnee Mission East getting upset by Blue Valley West.
Yes.
Just because, you had a kid, we talked about Jack Reeves and the senior season that he's had. I know he was a little dinged up at the end of the regular season, but getting him, I think, back at least a little bit for that game, you thought they're just so physical, like they're rough tumble. They're tough to, again, prepare for. They've been kind of our dark horse all year long, and they've kind of lived up to it. And here comes Blue Valley West. And I mean, maybe we have not been giving Coach Korkenmeyer and the Jaguars enough love, because obviously people know about Lawson McGraw, but there's another Nagy on this team, and the quarterback, Brett LeDuc, senior quarterback, is freaking slinging it this year.
Yeah.
And now you look at them going up against Olathe Northwest, and I think, again, Blue Valley West offense, and then having a guy like Lawson McGraw on defense, or a guy like Lawson McGraw that can go both ways, that can present a mismatch. Now all of a sudden Blue Valley West is going, why can't we get all the way to the 6A championship? So I would say that one was one that caught my eye. And then the other one is in the pod right above them. If you're looking at the 6A bracket, Olathe South over Blue Valley Northwest. Look, I know Blue Valley Northwest has been really, really beat up this season, and they weren't quite the Huskies team that we've come to know. But Olathe South, at times, I feel like, had some hiccups of their own, right? And had some games where they just got stomped. And so you didn't really know what team was going to show up there. And so I think a lot of us, myself included, just kind of assumed you ride with the trend, right? Which is the history, the recent history of Blue Valley Northwest. They had LJ Bowens. You figured they could ride him a little ways, and yet they're, boom, snap of a finger, they're gone. And so you look at that top pod there, and it's become very, very interesting with Blue Valley West still alive, Olathe South still alive. I still like Olathe West there, Kevin, but those two teams make things very interesting on the top half of 6A East.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm not sure there were a ton of big upsets kind of across the state. Overall, I think you touched on the main ones. And like I said, it was kind of surreal being at Salina Central's game. And of course, Salina Central expected to win that game over Topeka West and expected to win it by quite a lot. We had a running clock the entire second half. The game ends, the team's in the locker room waiting to come out, and everybody's just kind of like, did you see Salina South one? Did you see Salina South one? Did you see Salina South one? And then people started looking at the bracket to say,
exactly,
okay, could Salina South keep going, and could Salina South and Salina Central wind up meeting up? And so that would obviously if that winds up happening, I believe it would be next round.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something that would really bring the whole city of Salina into one place, which would be pretty cool to see.
Yeah, unexpected for sure.
We had a chance to speak with 4-star Kansas commitment Kaden Snyder after Salina Central's win, and we will hear from Kaden after the break.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned to what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home, because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise, because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity, because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
This is the Verbal Commitment Podcast on KCSN. We told you where we were at last week, but this week, Ryan and I will be splitting up once more. Ryan is the one traveling this time, heading down to see the state's #1 team in Mays take on an athletic Wichita East team with some real players. I'll be sticking closer to home, watching my alma mater play, with Shawnee Mission Northwest hosting Lawrence Free State. Ryan, what are you looking for from Wichita East at Mays?
Well, to be quite frank, it's more about Mays, right? You had a chance to watch Wichita East already against Wichita Northwest earlier this year. So we have a little bit of an idea of what the Aces have in store for me. But Mays is a squad that we have not had a chance to see this season. Really haven't seen them since what was it? Braden Maivella was a sophomore, right? We didn't see him last year. Yeah. So, it's been a minute. And so there are a lot of guys on that roster, right? Obviously, it starts with Braden Maivella, 1,300 passing yards, 790 rushing yards, 35 total touchdowns. Like, his touchdown to interception ratio right now is 21-0. He's just been unconscious as a senior. Really, really ecstatic to see him. And hopefully catch up with him maybe after the game and figure out what's going on with his recruitment, because you and I believe him to be one of the best available seniors still left on the market. But beyond him, Conrad Litton is a senior right guard that's had a terrific season for them. Ty Willits is another senior DB that's, I think, stood out for me on film when I go back and watch and kind of comb through that roster. But then a pair of juniors really have my attention in this game as well. Drake Blassie, junior linebacker. I would assume he's maybe related to Tate Blassie from Bishop Carroll a couple years ago. Athletic family, if so. And that shows up on tape. But the left tackle, junior left tackle from Mays that's been on our sheet, we've had discussions about him, just hadn't had a chance to see him in person. That ends this Friday. Nolan Hadley, I will be watching you on Friday against Wichita East. 6'3", 285 pounds, Kevin. 0 sacks allowed in the regular season, and I don't think he allowed one last week either. So you start to think about where he could be. K-State's been in there. South Dakota has also showed some heavy interest. No offers yet, but man, I love his tape, man. He is a fighter, nasty kid in the run game. I love, though, the common trend that I saw in all of his clips is the way that he readjusts, right? The way that he continues to stick with blocks and fight through. And I mean that in the best possible way, man. He's physical, he's big, but I love the way that he readjusts. And in this last clip, you're going to see him go against a guy named Hunter Higgins and had a really good game against Hunter. Got some help on that block too. But again, I think Nolan Hadley has really delivered and is putting up a serious case to be the number one offensive lineman in next year's class, not named Gus Corsair, not named Tyson Ross, but I mean, Nolan Hadley is right there.
I feel like there was a guy that we talked about his ability to adjust to people, and he wasn't a super highly recruited guy a year ago. His name was LaMarcus Barber.
Yeah.
He had a really big offseason, wound up kind of exploding into that power 4 range. Now we like him as one of the top linemen in the state, and so I'm interested to see sort of Hadley's journey even after this year and how he continues to attack the offseason. For me in your game, I'm also excited to see Pharrell Adams against that line against Braden Maivella, because he's had a monster senior year.
And Amari Bohannon, being able to see, how that's a tough task, right? I mean, I would imagine you kind of have to spy a Braden Maivella. Amari Bohannon is the type of athlete that, again, with Pharrell Adams, can kind of tag team that as best as you possibly can. But a major task for both those guys. But again, they're athletic enough, capable guys that can at least limit him, unlike maybe some other defenses have this season.
And for my game, I'm excited to see a Free State team that we've talked about being among the most talented teams in the state. Now, I know they've had some injuries. They've been banged up at times this year. But we believe, you and I, that there could be 3 Power 4 players on this roster. You have Braden Wilmus, 6'8" offensive tackle. He's committed to Clemson. Obviously a Power 4 player. His brother, Reese Wilmus, has picked up multiple Power 5 offers as well. But Ryan, a guy that I know we both really enjoy watching, that I think could also maybe start collecting some Power 4 offers, is Madden Brittingham.
Huge fan. And I'm letting, well, let me say what I need to say about Madden Brittingham.
All right.
I don't want to take any of the steam away from you, sir, because you were the conductor on this train. I just happened to jump on right after you. But look, the highlights of Madden Brittingham speak for themselves, because you get a guy that can do a little bit of everything. This year, he's playing a lot more running back, but you see the speed. Sorry, like, you're not catching him. I mean, this kid is unbelievable when you give him open field to play with, right? And then on defense, though, this is where I've just become enamored with him. This is against Sayer Padilla, upends the future Pitt State gorilla running back. But yeah, I mean, the way he comes downhill and he hits with force and good fundamentals. Here he is as a blocker, Kevin. Oh yeah, he can do that. And then if you want to see him do some stuff as a receiver, just go back and look at his sophomore tape, because he's catching passes over the middle of Manhattan High and outrunning JJ Dunnigan to the end zone. Here's what I wanted to say to you, and I briefly teased this off air because I wanted to get your reaction to this.
All right.
He's a 2027 player. He's a little bit taller. They might be about the same build, right? But maybe I'm crazy for saying this, because I know athletically they are not maybe apples to apples. But for all the coaches that love and are enamored with a Cooper Omott, why would you not be enamored in a similar fashion to Madden Brittingham? Because to me, I'm seeing a lot of commonalities here. Even if the athletic stuff isn't tit for tat, I think Madden is a lot better athlete than maybe he's being given credit for. And so again, we talked this year about, if you can't get Ian Premer, Arlie Morrell wouldn't be a bad plan B. If you're not going to get Cooper Omott, Madden Brittingham is not going to be a bad plan B at all.
Ryan, I love you. I love you as a friend. And I love that you brought that up, because I have had that same exact thought. The way that we described it on the show previously with Arlie was when you take like a whiff of whiskey before you drink it, you get notes of something, right? Like you're like, I get notes of chocolate, right, or whatever.
We're bourbon guys. You're speaking.
Yeah. Arlie Morrell gives you notes of Ian Premer. And I think Madden Brittingham gives you notes of Cooper Omott. There are some differences. I think Madden Brittingham has more top end speed. I really do. Like when they both hit, sort of their peak. I think if you're running a 100-meter dash, I think that Cooper probably gets him early, and I think Madden would catch up late. And I think Cooper is maybe a little bit more fluid as well, a little bit more explosive. But overall, I really like the comparison because they're both multi-talented guys. They're both guys who can succeed at different positions and at different roles within those positions, right? I think you've seen Cooper Omach play corner. You've seen him play free safety. He can cover, but he can also come up and hit. You see Madden Brittingham running the ball, blocking, catching the ball. He can do all of those different things. And so if a college coach asked me what position Cooper Omach plays, I'd probably say safety, but the real answer is playmaker / athlete.
Right.
And I think that's what you say with Madden Brittingham is his position right now. I don't know if it's running back. I don't know if it's safety. I think it's playmaker / athlete.
Yeah, 6'2", 195, and I just went and checked, his X account just to refresh my memory on where this recruitment is going. Granted, again, just a junior, so 2027, but K-State and KU are involved, as you would expect.
Yep.
Our friends at Washburn, right there, and Wyoming. So, I mean, there's some interest, right? Like he's taken some visits there, right? Who was it that's from Free State that's up at Wyoming? Parker Moore. So obviously there's some connection there, but coaches that are listening, fans out there, like, do not be surprised when this recruitment starts to take a little bit of a rise here in the next offseason, because again, I think the tape immediately, you're like, man, what can't this kid do? And then he's going to get into some of these combines and camps, and people are going to realize he's a lot better athlete than maybe we even thought he was. So this would be one that I think you should take a careful watch on. Again, we've talked about 2027 maybe not living up to where 26, 25, 23 have been, right, locally. But man, I think there's going to end up being some depth and some guys that are maybe worth a longer look than people are assuming as we sit here at the end of the 2026 cycle.
I feel like we're a broken record saying the offseason, but that's why we keep mentioning it, right? Is because there are a lot of those quote unquote fringy players where if they take a step forward, they're a Power 4 kid and they're getting the KU K-State offers and potentially other offers. If they kind of stay where they're at, that's where things maybe get a little bit more questionable. There's some other players we like on that Free State roster. Finn Moore is a tough kid with athleticism. You just mentioned Parker Moore. Everything I've heard is he's thriving at Wyoming right now. Finn Moore, the younger brother, plays quarterback, physical, athletic, a lot like his brother from that standpoint. Ethan Prescott is another playmaking guy, has done some nice things. But Ryan, let's not sleep on my Shawnee Mission Northwest Cougars, because Trey Woodruff has had a huge senior season in the Cougars Flexbone, scored 6 touchdowns last week. He is an excellent athlete. He's been getting game day invites to K-State, visited K-State, has plans to visit KU, I'm told, as well. I'll be fascinated to see where that ends up. I don't know that it's going to be a KU or a K-State if it's not a preferred walk-on spot. But I do think that, where his recruitment could go is interesting because he is a really good athlete. He plays quarterback in that offense. He's not alone either. My understanding is that the Cougars have a really strong offensive line with some good seniors. Demetric Tyler playing sort of that fullback halfback spot that you see in the flex bone. Both slot backs are really quick. And so this is going to be more than a matchup for Free State. I think, Shawnee Mission Northwest is going to be a really, really tough team for them to beat.
I wanted to go back to Trey Woodruff real quick, just because I feel like he's the type of kid. We saw them play Blue Valley West last year, and I remember Trey Woodruff, I believe, playing a little bit of both ways, if I'm not mistaken. Just a really good ball hawk with speed. And so, truth be told, like, there have been some college coaches that have slid into our inbox. Trey Woodruff's been one of those names that we've floated to various college coaches just as look, a lot of people are not going to see him for what he is because he's been playing quarterback. But I think you get to see glimpses of the speed and the vision and the agility all in that. And I'm telling you, once you see him in person, you're going, man, we can put this kid in a lot of different areas and maybe have him succeed. So he's another one of those guys. I mentioned Maivela, one of the better athletes still left on the market if you're willing to look at his tape for what he can be at maybe another position. Really just electric playmaker, man. And yeah, he will be a tough ask for Lawrence Free State to try and slow down, because you give him a seam that's like this big and he'll find daylight in a snap of a finger.
By the way, Ryan, I know we talked Kansas and Kansas State on this show, and there are a pair of young players who are legacies from both schools to keep an eye on, or from both Kansas and Kansas State to keep an eye on for the future from Shawnee Mission Northwest.
Interesting.
Brandon McAnderson Jr. is the son of former Kansas star Brandon McAnderson. He's a junior this year, and there's a 2029 offensive lineman, Harris Leckie, who is the son of Kansas State All-American and NFL center Nick Leckie. Obviously, just a freshman, already 6'2", 215 pounds, and somebody to keep an eye on.
Put him on the list. Put him on the list. You're on the list.
On Friday, we spoke with Salina Central offensive tackle and Kansas commitment Kaden Snyder. Here's what he had to say about the work he's put in, him enrolling early at Kansas, and who he's planning to room with. Here was Kaden Snyder right after Salina Central's win over Topeka West, opening round. How's it feel to get that first playoff win under your belt?
Feels good. Didn't get much time tonight, but it was a good one.
Heading in, it feels like you guys have pretty high expectations for these playoffs. Well,
Yeah.
What do you think you guys are capable of?
I think we're capable of winning it all, especially making it there. I think Andover losing tonight is also good for us, but we wanted to play them, so it's a little sad too.
How do you feel like you've improved over the last year and from when you guys were sort of at this spot a year ago?
The whole team, we play together. We all love each other. We all want each other to do great things, and we're not selfish and want everyone to eat.
Speaking of eating, you've put on a little bit of weight. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a good way. What's your weight at now?
I'm probably right now like 295, but I was at 305 at the beginning of the season and just dropped some as the season's gone on.
That's awesome. I know you put in a lot of work in the weight room to get there and everything. How much did you put on from last year?
Last year football season I was 250 probably, so 45 to 50 pounds.
And obviously you've got a basketball background. Are you interested to see, are you going to play basketball this year? Are you going to head to KU early?
I'm graduating this semester.
Okay. Do you know who you're going to room with at KU?
Yeah, Jalen, Hunter, and Josh.
Okay. That sounds like a fun group and everything. I know you get along with those guys really well. You've known Hunter a really long time, haven't you?
Not too long, just from sports and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. What are you looking forward to when you get up to KU?
Not really change things around, but keep building on what they've been doing and win a lot of football games.
I know when I talked to you in the summer, you said that you kind of had a personal goal of maybe playing early. Is that still something that you're concentrating on?
That's why I put on all this weight too.
What do you have to do to get there, you think?
Just work hard in the weight room, work hard to show I care, and learn the playbook very fast.
How often have you been to KU in the new booth so far this season?
I've went to 2 games so far, the K-State and Fresno State game, and I'm going this Saturday with some friends.
And obviously you saw Memorial Stadium before, or the booth before all the renovations. You saw when they were just pictures and they were saying, hey, this is what it's going to look like. What's it been like for you to see that kind of actualized and see what it looks like?
It just means a lot as a recruit that they're putting so much into football and getting all these nice things for recruits and to be the best program they possibly can be.
How much does it mean to you to have this strong group of Kansas recruits heading to KU, all these in-state guys?
It means a lot. I feel like other teams, when they just have people thrown around, they don't talk, and we're all a very active talking group, and we all love each other already.
Yeah, you guys have the group chat and everything. Yeah. I asked you in the summer, but I kind of want to ask you again. Who's the funniest person in the group chat?
Funniest person? That's tough. I think Kaden Moody is very funny. He's not from Kansas, but I think he's real funny.
Good deal. And when you talk to the coaches, are you going to start off at tackle? Have you talked about like where your spot is on the line?
I haven't talked too much, but they know I can play guard or tackle or whatever I need to do to be on the field.
That was Kaden Snyder, the top-ranked recruit in Kansas's class, and this has been the Verbal Commitment Podcast on KCSN. Thanks to all of you for following along. If you enjoyed what you saw or heard, leave us a comment or review, like this video, subscribe here on YouTube, or hit us with a 5-star rating if you're listening on an audio platform. And until next time, we'll see you on the trail, and take care.